Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Today's learning target will be learning target 1. This is Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, basically, because Algebra 2 is just review of Algebra 1. We just want to make sure you know how to graph a line using slope-intercept form. Okay, your prior knowledge. So in order to be successful in this endeavor, you should be able to graph coordinate points on a coordinate plane, and you should be able to graph a line by making a table. Okay, so if you're given a function, you should be able to input into that function, make a table, graph those points. You should be able to graph points like this. So if you have any trouble with that, you need to review that before you move on. The learning objective. The learning objective is for students to be able to graph a line using slope-intercept form of the equation of a line. So if it's in this form, this form, anything like that. Okay, that is the learning objective. So first, what is slope-intercept form? It's a form of a line that is very powerful, very helpful when very often used. So it's in the form where you put the y on the left of the equal sign, you put the m, x plus b, and m means slope. It means how steep is that line? Is it really steep? Am I going uphill really steep? Am I going uphill not so steep? Am I not going uphill at all? Am I going downhill? What is the slope of that line? B. Well, we're going to find out what that means. Okay? Alright, so to make a horizontal line, so we're going to start with some visual that might help. To make a horizontal line, how does changing the number change the line? Okay, so what I did was I typed this into Desmos so we can see what the graph is going to look like. So y equals 2 looks like that line there. But if I change that and put y equals 3, so what's happening? Y equals 4, there's the green one. Y equals 5, there's a purple one. Y equals 6. What's happening in your own words? Okay, now we're going to look at a vertical line. A vertical line is going to look a little bit different, so we're going to get rid of these. We're going to change it. X equals 1, x equals 2, 3, 4, 5, x equals 6, x equals negative 7, x equals negative 1/2. Try that. What do you think it's going to look like? Negative 1/2. So in your own words, how does the number here change that vertical line? Alright, so now let's see how changing this part of the equation changes the equation. So we're going to put it back. Slope-intercept form means you put your y first, you put an equal sign. So this is slope-intercept form. Y equals some number, doesn't matter what. So let's put, how about 1? X. Alright, so there's our equation right there. So what happens if I change just that slope? Remember the number in front of the x, in front, or the left. The left means in front because we read from left to right. So if I change that number on the left in front of the x to a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, what's happening to that line? Go ahead and answer that question. So we saw what happens when we change the slope to be a bigger slope. What if it gets really, really big? Or even bigger? What happens if it gets really, really small, like 0.001? What's happening to that line? Is it the same as the x-intercept? Let's take a look. Let's zoom in. Not quite. What if I make it even smaller? So it never quite reaches that. I need to go back. never quite reaches a completely flat unless you change the whole number to 0. So I could have a number there. So as my slope gets bigger, what happens? As my slope gets bigger, it gets close to being a vertical line. As my slope gets smaller, it gets closer and closer to being a horizontal line. But what happens if I go -5, -6, -7, -8, -9, -10? So it still gets closer and closer to being a vertical line. But if I go -100, same thing. But if I go in between, so -0.01, okay? So what happens as that number changes?